The silent guardians. The emergency klaxons wailed through the crystalline halls of the Galactic Coalition's Grand Council chamber. High Ambassador Zilith's translucent skin pulsed with distress patterns as she faced the assembled representatives of over 200 peaceful civilizations. Behind her, the massive holographic display showed another coalition world vanishing in a flash of sickening purple energy. "The Void Collective has breached our outer defensive arrays," Zilith announced, her voice harmonizer barely concealing her terror. "The Seventh Fleet has been completely obliterated. 23 billion souls lost on Proxima Centauri Station." The chamber erupted in panic. Species that had known nothing but peace for thousands of years now faced extinction. The Void Collective had emerged from the darkness between galaxies 6 months ago, silent, implacable, and unstoppable. These crystalline entities consumed energy in all forms, including the very life force of sentient beings. Coalition defensive systems, designed for asteroid deflection and radiation protection, proved utterly ineffective. Science Director Ilara, a Vespid with iridescent wings that trembled with nervous energy, approached the central podium. Her compound eyes reflected the emergency lights as she interfaced with the chamber's data systems. "There may be one option left," she clicked softly, "but the Council won't approve." The display shifted to show a small blue-green planet, third from an unremarkable yellow star. "Earth," Zilith whispered, her skin patterns shifting to shock. "The Deathworlders. This is beyond desperate." "Perhaps desperation is exactly what we need," Ilara responded, bringing up detailed scans. "Look at their environment. Extreme gravity, atmospheric pressure variations, temperature fluctuations that would kill most sentient species, and apex predators at every turn. Yet they didn't merely survive, they conquered their world." The display showed humans climbing impossible mountains, diving into crushing ocean depths, and building cities in environments that would kill most coalition species instantly. More disturbing images followed. Their conflicts, their weapons, their sheer determination to overcome any obstacle. "They're primitive," objected Council member Thrax, a gaseous entity contained within an environmental suit. "They haven't even achieved unified planetary governance, let alone mastered stable wormhole technology." "But look at how they fight," Ilara insisted, her wings vibrating with intensity. "Their military technology, while crude by our standards, shows remarkable effectiveness. They understand warfare in ways we never had to learn, ways we actively chose to forget." Zilith studied the data in silence. The Void Collective had already consumed dozens of worlds, their crystalline forms absorbing and repurposing everything they touched. The Coalition's weapons, designed for precision and minimal environmental impact, barely registered against their ever-adapting forms. "Show me their combat capabilities," she finally ordered. The display shifted again, showing human military exercises. The Council watched in horrified fascination as these Deathworlders willingly subjected themselves to conditions that would kill most sapient species. Their ships, while primitive, were built to withstand stresses that would tear coalition vessels apart. Their soldiers trained in environments simulating every imaginable horror. "They're not just strong," Ilara explained. "They're adaptable in ways we barely comprehend. Their entire evolutionary history is an endless cycle of overcoming impossible challenges. And right now, we face the most impossible challenge in coalition history." Zilith finished, her form pulsing with deep colors as she contemplated the unthinkable. The Coalition had avoided contact with Earth for centuries, marking it as too dangerous, its inhabitants too volatile. Now those very qualities might be their only hope. "Prepare a transmission," she ordered. "Send them everything. Our star charts, our technology database, our wormhole designs. Show them what the Void Collective has done to our worlds." She paused, her form dimming slightly. "And offer them whatever they want in return for their help." As the message was prepared, Zilith addressed the stunned Council. "I know many of you fear humans. The archives call them aggressive, territorial, and dangerously unpredictable. But the Void Collective cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be appeased. She gestured to the images of Earth's warriors training in conditions that would kill most Coalition species instantly. Perhaps it takes monsters to fight monsters. The transmission, encoded with the Coalition's most advanced protocols, shot across space toward the little blue world they had long feared to contact. On Earth, at precisely 300 hours UTC, every major radio telescope and military installation received the same message. A desperate plea for help from the stars, calling upon humanity's unique capabilities, not for conquest or destruction, but for salvation. Humanity's response would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Helena Reyes stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her weathered face illuminated by holographic projections of the alien message. The underground chamber beneath the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in Geneva hummed with tension as military leaders and heads of state processed the unprecedented situation. "Let me be absolutely clear," she began, her voice carrying the weight of 30 years of naval command. "What we're looking at isn't just first contact. It's a civilization that's technically centuries ahead of us, yet finds themselves helpless against an enemy they never prepared to face." The holographic display shifted to show the alien technical database. Dr. Imran Khan, Earth's leading physicist in quantum mechanics, appeared on the main screen, his eyes bright despite obvious exhaustion. "The Coalition's technology is remarkable," he reported. "Their wormhole drive alone would advance humanity by centuries. But what's fascinating is what they didn't do with it. They never weaponized their discoveries. Their shields are purely defensive. Their sensors were never adapted for targeting systems. And these Void Collective creatures?" asked the president of the African Union. The display changed to show footage of crystalline entities consuming alien worlds. The collective moved like a coordinated swarm of geometric shapes, each unit adapting and evolving as it absorbed new energy sources and technology. "They're unlike anything we've ever theorized," Dr. Khan explained, "but they have weaknesses the Coalition never exploited. Their adaptive capabilities follow patterns. They evolve to counter specific threats, but they can't adapt to everything simultaneously." Admiral Reyes smiled grimly. "They're predators, and humanity has been dealing with predators since we first climbed down from the trees." The Chinese premier leaned forward. "What about defending Earth? If we commit resources to helping them, what protects us?" "The Coalition's defensive technology," Reyes answered. "Their shields can protect entire planets. We can have a global defense system operational within weeks. But more importantly," she gestured to the technical specifications, "their technology combined with our military experience gives us advantages they never imagined." The debate raged for hours. Military strategists analyzed combat footage. Economists calculated the benefits of alien technology. Politicians argued about risks and rewards. Through it all, Admiral Reyes waited patiently, answering questions and explaining possibilities. Finally, the UN Secretary-General called for silence. "We've seen the evidence. We've heard the arguments. Now we must decide. Do we hide behind our new shields and watch an alien civilization die? Or do we show the galaxy that humanity's strength can be used to protect others?" The voting began. One by one, world leaders registered their decisions. When the final tally appeared, Reyes stepped forward immediately. "With your permission, I'd like to implement Operation Shattered Void immediately. We've already selected our best ships for upgrades. The Coalition's technology will let us refit them within days instead of months." "How long until we can launch?" asked the Secretary-General. 2 weeks for the first battle group," Reyes replied. "We'll start with our newest carriers and destroyers. Dr. Khan's team has already figured out how to combine our weapons systems with their shield technology." As the council adjourned, Reyes remained behind, studying footage of Coalition worlds falling to the Void Collective. She thought about humanity's long history of warfare, how every advancement in technology had been tested first in combat. The Coalition feared war so much they never learned its lessons. Now they needed someone who understood both the art of war and the importance of protecting the innocent. "Send word to all commands," she ordered. "Operation Shattered Void begins now. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can do when we fight for something bigger than ourselves." Around the world, military bases sprang into action. Ships were moved into dry dock for upgrading. Crews began intensive training with the new technology. And in laboratories across the planet, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to combine coalition technology with human weapons in ways the peaceful aliens had never considered. 2 weeks later, the first battle group stood ready. 12 ships, carriers, destroyers, and missile cruisers, retrofitted with coalition technology, but still unmistakably human in design and purpose. Their hulls bore the insignia of the newly formed United Earth Defense Force, a shield protecting a spiral galaxy. Admiral Rice stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as the final preparations were completed. Beside her stood Cathal, the coalition liaison assigned to the human fleet. The slender alien's translucent skin rippled with nervous energy patterns as he observed the humans moving with practiced efficiency. "Your people arm even your medical personnel," Cathal observed, gesturing to a passing corpsman with a sidearm. "Every human on this vessel is trained to fight. Every human on this vessel is trained to survive," Rice corrected. "And to help others survive. That's something your people will need to learn." "We are a peaceful civilization," Cathal protested. "We have been for millennia." Rice turned to face the alien directly. "Peace isn't the absence of conflict, Cathal. It's the ability to face conflict and overcome it. Your people forgot that lesson. We're about to remind the galaxy." The final checks completed, Rice took her position in the command chair. "All ships, this is Admiral Rice. Prepare for wormhole transit. Our destination is the Proxima Centauri defensive line. Our mission is to hold that line while the rest of our fleet mobilizes." She paused, looking around at her crew, the best Earth had to offer, now entrusted with the fate of 2 civilizations. "The Coalition has offered us the stars in exchange for our help. Let's show them they made the right choice. Activate wormhole generators." Space tore open before the human fleet, a swirling vortex of energy leading to distant stars. The ships of humanity's first interstellar battle group accelerated into the unknown, carrying with them the hopes of 2 civilizations and the fierce determination of a species that had faced extinction many times and always survived. Wrath of the Deathworlders. The wormhole collapsed behind the human fleet as they emerged into the Proxima Centauri system. Admiral Rice stood before the tactical display, studying the battlefield that would determine the fate of humanity's first interstellar alliance. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. "Coalition Defense Station is still operational but heavily damaged," reported Commander Sato, her tactical officer. "Void Collective forces are concentrated in the asteroid belt. They're processing the mining stations for energy and materials." Cathal trembled visibly as he viewed the tactical display. "There are still thousands of Coalition citizens on those stations. We must evacuate them immediately." "We will," Rice assured him, "but first we need to draw the Collective's attention." She turned to her communications officer. "Broadcast on all frequencies, Coalition and Standard. This is Admiral Helena Reyes of the United Earth Defense Force. We are here at the request of the Galactic Coalition to engage the Void Collective. All Coalition vessels and stations, prepare for immediate evacuation on our signal." She paused, studying the enemy formations. The crystalline entities were arranged in perfect geometric patterns, methodically stripping mining stations of energy and materials. They showed no reaction to the human fleet's arrival. "Yet, they're ignoring us," Cathal observed, confusion rippling across his translucent skin. "They don't consider us a threat," Rice replied with a grim smile. "Let's change that." She turned to Sato. "Target the largest concentration with tactical nuclear warheads. Full spread." Cathal's skin flashed with alarm patterns. "Nuclear weapons? In an asteroid field, the radiation will be contained by the warhead's design. Rise interrupted. Your people may have forgotten how to wage war, Cathal, but we've had centuries to perfect it. And sometimes, the best way to save lives is to demonstrate your willingness to take them. The missiles launched, streaking across space toward the unsuspecting Void Collective. When they detonated, the explosions were oddly beautiful, perfect spheres of destructive energy contained by specialized fields that directed the force inward, maximizing damage while minimizing collateral effects. The Collective's perfect formation shattered as dozens of crystalline entities were reduced to dust. For the first time since their appearance, the invaders showed something resembling confusion. "They're reacting," Sato reported, excitement edging her voice. "Reorganizing their formation. Energy readings indicate they're redirecting power to defensive systems." "Now we have their attention," Rice said. "All ships, execute Pattern Zulu. Carriers deploy fighter squadrons. Let's show them what happens when you fight an enemy that actually fights back." The human fleet broke into precisely coordinated groups, attacking from multiple vectors in patterns designed to confuse and divide the enemy. Fighter squadrons launched from the carriers, hundreds of small craft piloted by humans who had trained their entire lives for combat in 3 dimensions. The Void Collective responded with energy beams that sliced through space, but the human ships moved with unpredictable variations in speed and direction. Coalition technology combined with human tactics made them frustratingly difficult targets. "They're adapting," Sato warned, as the Collective's attacks became more coordinated, energy signatures changing. "They're trying to match our shield frequencies." "As expected," Rise replied calmly. "Execute Phase 2. Throughout the fleet, weapons systems that had been dormant suddenly activated. The Coalition had never developed offensive electromagnetic pulse weapons, considering them too destructive to ecosystem stability. Humans had no such reservations. Specialized EMP bombs detonated throughout the Collective's formation, temporarily disrupting their energy-based systems. "Evacuation shuttles launching from the mining stations," reported Lieutenant Park from Communications. "Coalition Defense Station is providing cover fire." "Direct half our fighter squadrons to escort those shuttles," Rise ordered. "The rest will continue harassment operations. Keep the Collective confused and divided." For 6 hours, the battle raged across the Proxima Centauri system. The human fleet darted in and out of engagement range, never staying in one place long enough for the Collective to adapt to their tactics. When the crystalline entities finally began to counter one weapon system, the humans simply switched to another. Hithal watched in astonishment as these primitive Deathworlders executed military maneuvers with a precision his people had never imagined possible. "Your species fights as though you were born for it," he observed. "In a way, we were," Rise replied without taking her eyes off the tactical display. "Life on Earth has always been combat, against the environment, against predators, against each other. We learn to survive by learning to fight. Your people chose a different path. We believed warfare was something civilizations outgrew," Cathal admitted. "That violence was a sign of evolutionary failure." Rise finally turned to him, her expression softening slightly. "There's nobility in that belief, Cathal. And in a perfect universe, you'd be right. But the universe isn't perfect, and sometimes survival requires strength." She gestured to the display, where human ships continued their coordinated attack patterns. "This is humanity's gift to the galaxy, not our technology or our culture, but our understanding that peace must sometimes be defended with force." The last evacuation shuttle reached the Coalition Defense Station, and Rise nodded in satisfaction. "All civilian assets secure. Now for Phase 3. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, execute Operation Hammerfall. I repeat, execute Hammerfall." Across the human fleet, specialized weapons activated, weapons that combined Coalition energy technology with human manufacturing techniques in ways the peaceful aliens had never considered. Concentrated beams of energy targeted the collective's central nodes, disrupting the coordination between individual entities. They're fragmenting. Sato reported as the perfect geometric formations began to break apart. Collective cohesion dropping by 60% and falling. Press the advantage, Rais ordered. All ships, close to optimal range and fire at will. Target their command structures. The battle shifted from strategic harassment to direct assault as the human fleet closed in on the now disorganized collective. Nuclear-tipped missiles, energy weapons, and specialized EMP devices struck with devastating precision. What had begun as a delaying action was rapidly becoming a rout. 3 hours later, it was over. The remnants of the Void Collective retreated from the system, their numbers reduced by nearly 70%. The human fleet, though damaged, remained combat effective. Only one destroyer had been lost, its crew evacuated before the ship was scuttled to prevent capture. As the Coalition Defense Station sent messages of gratitude and amazement, Admiral Rais turned to Kethal. The alien skin now displayed patterns of wonder and something like respect. "This is merely the beginning," she told him quietly. "The collective will adapt to our tactics. They'll develop countermeasures to our weapons. The next battle will be harder." "Yet you seem confident," Kethal observed. "Because adaptation works both ways," Rais explained. "Humans have faced extinction-level threats throughout our history. Each time, we emerged stronger. The collective may adapt to our tactics, but will adapt faster. It's what we do." News of the victory at Proxima Centauri spread rapidly throughout Coalition space. Species that had resigned themselves to extinction suddenly found hope in the primitive Deathworlders who had accomplished what their most advanced fleets could not. In the following weeks, more human battle groups arrived through the wormholes. Coalition scientists, inspired by humanity's creative use of their technology, began developing their own offensive capabilities. The war was far from over, but for the first time since the Void Collective had appeared, the tide was turning. 3 months later, Admiral Rais stood on the observation deck of the massive Coalition station orbiting their homeworld, Harmony. Beside her stood High Ambassador Zilith and representatives from 20 different species. They watched as the combined human Coalition fleet prepared for the final assault on the Void Collective's main force. "When we sent that desperate message to Earth," Zilith admitted, "we hoped only for temporary salvation, perhaps a few more months of existence before the inevitable end." "And now?" Rais asked. "Now we understand what we lost when we abandoned the concept of defensive force," Zilith replied. "Your people have taught us that peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the willingness to stand against those who would destroy it." Rais nodded, watching as Coalition ships maneuvered alongside human vessels, their designs now incorporating elements of both cultures. "And your people have reminded us that fighting isn't an end in itself. We fight to protect, to preserve, to build something better." The final battle against the Void Collective lasted 7 days. When it ended, the crystalline entities had been driven back to the darkness between galaxies from which they had emerged. The combined human Coalition fleet had suffered heavy losses, but they returned victorious. In the reconstructed Grand Council chamber, Admiral Rais stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Coalition. Where once they had viewed humans with fear and suspicion, now they rose in a standing ovation as she approached the central podium. High Ambassador Zilith raised her hands for silence. "6 months ago, we faced extinction at the hands of an enemy we could not comprehend, let alone defeat. We turned in desperation to a species we had long feared. A species evolved on a world that would kill most of us in minutes. Today, we acknowledge our debt to humanity and formally invite Earth to join the Galactic Coalition as full members." The chamber erupted in approval as Reyes stepped forward to accept. "Humanity is honored by your invitation," she began. "For centuries, we looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone. We imagined meeting advanced civilizations that would guide us toward a more peaceful future. Instead, we found that our greatest strength, our ability to face adversity and overcome it, was exactly what the galaxy needed." She gestured to the rebuilt holographic display, which now showed Earth and Harmony side by side. We have much to learn from each other. Your civilization has achieved wonders of art, philosophy, and science that will enrich human culture immeasurably. And perhaps, in return, we can offer you the understanding that true peace comes not from avoiding conflict, but from being strong enough to face it, and wise enough to know when strength must give way to compassion. As the formal alliance was ratified, ships from both civilizations prepared to depart on joint missions of exploration and defense. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, but for the first time in its history, the Coalition faced that danger not with fear, but with confidence, standing alongside the Deathworlders who had taught them how to fight, and, in doing so, saved them all. On the bridge of the UES Defiant, Admiral Rice watched as Earth receded in the viewscreen. Humanity's first official diplomatic mission to Harmony was underway, carrying scientists, artists, and military advisors to cement the alliance that had been forged in battle. "You were right, Keithal said, now serving as the official liaison between their civilizations, about what your people could teach us. And I was wrong about what we could learn from yours," Rice admitted. "We've spent so long fighting that we sometimes forget what we're fighting for. Your people remind us that survival isn't enough. We need to build something worth surviving for." Together, they watched as the wormhole generator activated, tearing open space to reveal the path to distant stars. As the ship accelerated toward their new allies, Rice reflected that perhaps this was humanity's true destiny, not to conquer the stars, but to defend them, not merely to survive against all odds, but to teach others how to do the same. The Deathworlders had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.